Hey everyone, this is the Forex strategy review for the week of October 18th to October 22nd. It was a lower volatility week again. There was the potential for about 9R, maybe even a little bit more. I did not have a great week. I ended up the week at about plus 3R, so I really underperformed the potential. And then when you factor in commissions, it was just above a break-even week. So probably one of my worst weeks of the year, or it was my worst week of the year. But at least overall the strategies performed well, which was encouraging. And so we'll go through the charts. I missed a few things this week that some other people pointed out to me, so that was really great to see that, there's quite a few people trading the strategies now, so can help each other out and say like, hey, there was a good opportunity here. And so yeah, 9.49R, 45% win rate. There were a few break-even trades. I got out of a few early just because on the choppy days, the price was whipsawing back and forth. So we had reversals in the opposite direction. So I was able to trim quite a few of the losses and keep them pretty small. So low win rate, but a few of these were losing trades. But on the flip side, because we had some break-even trades, really small losses like 0.45R, 0.1R, 0.76R, that win rate ended up going higher. Lower win rate, higher risk reward because we were able to get out of some of those losers early. I recorded my trading session on Friday, so I'm going to keep this pretty brief because I talked a lot about the week in that recording. So you can go to watch that recording here. It's also on the YouTube channel. Rounded tops and bottoms as usual. There are primary strategy still raking in the money this week, and the double pumps just pulled in a little bit for us, not too much. So Monday was a really big one in terms of me being kind of asleep at the wheel and some people pointing out some trades after, which I didn't even see when I kind of did my daily review. And I remember being pretty tired on this day. I don't think I noted anything in my things. I think I maybe wanted to just ignore it or something. And so I was pretty tired coming in, maybe like 5 hours of sleep or something. And yeah, maybe not quite as fresh, not quite seeing it the way I usually do. And we had this really nice sell-off here, and someone noticed a double pump here. It's quite quick on this bar because it comes right back up, but then we go right back to the low, right back to the high. Little false breakout there. It's a 2-pip candle there, maybe a little less. So a nice opportunity, and some people pointed out that they got into this trade and were able to win on it. I had liked this trade. I decided to skip it. Again, maybe just a little tired and not quite feeling 100%. But that one also, that would have been the big runner right here. So not really a double pump because it didn't all come back all the way to this low. But once we had pulled back and moved back up toward these highs, we get this little pause here. It's just one bar, but then we get the breakout and the run. So potential double pump there. So I put this as a potentially 5R day after kind of seeing these things, but we could have also had this one. This one was the other one that I liked. And when I was looking at this in real time, I was looking at this one and then kind of this one, and I was thinking more of the entry down here if this had pulled back. And I totally missed this little thing right in here, especially with the false breakout above this high. We have this little push higher. This is a little bit of a spike, and maybe that's why I missed it for sure. But then, really strong shift back to the downside. We take out this little swing low here, pull back, small bar, nice drop. And as someone pointed out, we just had the big false breakout above these kind of highs here. So a really good trade, even though this was a bit of a spike, which usually says, be a little cautious. We also had this big false breakout, which says be aggressive. So those two kind of things canceled each other out, and this would have been a good little rounded top to trade. And, that was one of the stronger. You had this move and this move, which were kind of the big moves of the day, and this one to a little bit lesser extent. So really missed that opportunity, and I didn't see it. So I had 0 trades. I did say I feel like I missed out a little bit. And yeah, so I had some kind of mixed feelings on this day, having 0 trades, and I noticed that at the time. But yeah, I just wasn't seeing it, and that sometimes happens, just an off day. So this was a potentially 5R day, maybe even a little bit more if you caught this double pump variation, a 7.5R day. So big miss on my part, getting 0R that day. And that was a big thing for the week. Here, a couple no trigger trades, and yeah, just kind of waiting for this rounded bottom to complete. This was a big one, right? We're looking at this whole kind of pattern here. Drop, we get the sell off, we move back above the day low, and then we drop back below, we can't really gain any tractions, and we start to get that shift to the upside. So this was our first shift to the upside. And I did point out that you could have gone long here. This did go like 0.1 pips above this candle. And because this was a big pattern, there was the potential that this could be a little bit more complex price wave, just because this is such a big pattern, as opposed to when you're looking at kind of that one we just looked at. Like this isn't a complex pattern. We're looking at, move up, move down, and it's just a couple candles in each price bar. Whereas this, there are multiple candles in each wave. So when the more candles you have in each price bar of the pattern you're looking at, the more potential candles you have to think are going to occur in the bars in the waves forthcoming. So, we had kind of on this up wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before we get the transition down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we start to transition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a very small wave compared to all these other waves. So 6, 7, 8, 9. Once we get down here, we're kind of more along the lines of what on average has been happening in these other waves. So if you're trading a big pattern, you got to wait for bigger waves. If you're trading tiny patterns and all the waves are tiny, then you can feel more aggressive and get in on those tiny waves once you see that transition. So this entry wasn't really of interest to me yet, but once this wave started to get a few more price bars, then it becomes interesting, because it's more, I don't want to use the word symmetric, but it's more in line with what's been happening these last few price bars. So yeah, and was able to grab a little bit more of this. We had just had the false breakout, saw a really strong surge, and I just put the target 1 pip above this swing high, thinking if we get close to that, we're gonna take out any stop losses that are sitting up here, which might cause a little spike above it, and it did. Here's where it got a little rough for me, and I know a few other people. Wednesday and Thursday of the week, and I did take this one here, ended up with a loss, and yeah, that's okay. A little bit of slippage on it too. Or no, I moved my stop loss up just slightly. Kept the original target, but yeah, I had to expand my stop loss because it just didn't end up in exactly the spot I wanted. Got stopped out anyway. And then just really kind of some junk in here. Not really compelling movement, really tight price range. And very whipsaw-y, from making a new low right to a new high, coming almost all the way back. So just kind of ugly price action. So I felt fine about this, just some weirdo price action. Thursday was tough, lots of kind of whipsaw movement again. Started out, we had some pretty big movement, at least in terms of this one uptrend, which kind of got me thinking, okay, we might actually have some action today. Maybe a little bit on my part, too much expectation that was going to continue, because we'd been chop, and yeah, we had this base could drop, and then we just kind of reversed it. And so here we had this nice drop, double pump pattern, went short, got stopped out, had this little pop up again. It fell right away, so I thought, oh, a false breakout, I'll take that one too. And it failed. And then we tried again, and I thought, man, this has tried to go up so many times after this decline. This trend is probably going to continue at some point, and it just did not. So these ones were, this one I was able to reduce the loss a little bit, just because once it failed immediately, and it was, the stop loss was pretty small. So once it kind of got halfway up there and it went above these two little candles, I was like, it's pretty easy for it to take out the stop loss. So I was able to reduce it a little bit. And even if you kept it at 1 hour, it still would have been at a minus 2.5 day or something. So not a huge difference there. This one was a full loss. It dropped and then just came right back. This one, was in it for a little bit, was in a decent profit, and I did consider taking it because it was just, I could see we were so choppy. But we got right to that low, and on that candle, I was thinking, if it might wiggle around a little bit and then sell off. And then even once it pulled back, even at this point, I was thinking we just kind of went right back to those lows. We could easily pop up and then start dropping again. But as it just kept going up and it got to my break even, at that point, I decided to call it. And at that point, we've even at my break even point, we've come right back to the top of this little swing high here. So not something I'd want to go long on, but we do have that potential reversal playing out. Possible rounded bottom in here, I just wasn't too into it because of we just had this false breakout above the day high and it'd come right back. Then we had this big rounded top, I did take that rounded bottom, and saying that now, I didn't really like it because of this false breakout, but you know what? Obviously the downside had not worked out, and I think that's what kind of compelled me into this trade was this one here, the long, was that we've tried multiple times to go down, so maybe we are heading back toward those highs and maybe above them. And that faltered too. And then from rounded bottom, we went right into rounded top, took that short, it failed too, like almost right away. So just, you can see, you could have taken pretty much any trade, and unless you got right in at the bottom or short at the top, and even then it would have been tough to make any money because the price was just so choppy. So I really got chewed up. I didn't feel too bad about it because looking at it after, I'm like, the price only moved like 5 pips here and like up to 8 pips here, and it was just chop. So maybe over traded a little bit for the context, but I guess maybe clinging too much to the idea that we were going to get some movement like this again. And I did want to go back through and look through my charts because, I have these screenshots from every day. So I was going to go through and look if you have a breakout to the downside, it breaks the daily range to the downside, kind of around our session or maybe just before, around the New York Open. And then it breaks the day high. Does that change the complexity of the day? Because all those big stop levels have been taken out by this move and this move. And does that tend to cause some choppiness after? And I wanted to go through my charts and look to see if that is a tendency, because that would help kind of avoid some of these situations. Maybe you take 1 or 2 trades in here, but you're not taking 5 because you know that there's a high probability that it's going to be a choppy day once this happens. So I don't know if that's the case, but I want to go back and check because it just made me think I saw this false breakout, and then we're just chopping around. So maybe there's something to that, maybe there's not, but if you have lots of charts to go through, hey, check it out. Friday was a better day again. I came into this day a little gun shy. I recorded this session and caught one early. And, it tried to go a couple times, and I just decided to pull the plug on it. It would have easily been a 2.5R win if I had just held on. There was no real reason to get out, even though this came back to below that swing low. It shot right back up, and it never did, a turn back to the downside where it took out a candle low. It just continued right up and would have hit that target. So that would have been an easy 2.5R. I got one order out of it. I felt okay with that after those couple tough days in a row. I kind of came in with the idea that, let's just make some money and we can be a little aggressive with the stop losses, and let's just get some wins in the book. I almost got into not quite the same trade, but I saw this double pump, and then it stalled out right here, double pump variation. This was a big candle, so I didn't want to enter on it. Wait for something a little bit better. These little candles came along. I probably could have used a smaller stop loss, which would have probably allowed me to hit my target. Either, probably not here, but at least here. Because it came very close, and this was a 2-pip stop loss. And if I would have even reduced it to 1.7 pips or something, that would have hit my target. And called this one. This one got really close, within 0.2, 0.3 pips, and was kind of wiggling around there. And as soon as it started to drop below the little wiggles on this price bar, this red bar, as it was forming, it was just kind of sitting there. And then once it kind of dropped below the bid price that it had been bumping up against, I just sold it. So 1.95. This one also would have eventually hit the target and never came a little close to the stop loss there, but ultimately went higher and would have hit the target. All this junk would have been hard to hold through. Then we had this rounded bottom, big one, very slow movement to the downside, nice shift to the upside here. We're just waiting for a candle high to get taken out. Pops, stop loss below there, wiggles around a little bit. And again, just a little willing to take my profit just because of the last 2 sessions have been so choppy. And I'd had a little bit of evidence that we weren't as choppy today, because this one would have hit the target if I would have held it. This one came very close to my target, so that was actually encouraging, even though I had to take a little bit less. And, we're just starting to get this shift back up. But again, took my profit early, and this one would have hit the target as well. I talked a little bit about this one on a high confidence day. We can see that this price action is getting really compressed against this high. So we have this high, pushes up against it, tries to drop, pushes up against it. We have, a couple candles here that move sideways, a couple candles here that move sideways. So if I'd been trading really well all week, this probably would have been one I would have wanted to be in. But on a kind of low confidence day, and where I was just kind of okay, let's just make a bit of money and get out of here. When you're in that kind of mood, I wasn't ready to take this one. So this could have actually been a quite profitable day if that one would have been taken, because it also shot off pretty quick. Talked about the magnet zones in the video. After you have a false breakout, the other side often becomes kind of a magnet area, or stop areas that haven't been taken out. So in the recording of this day, I talked about how the price had broken below the day low. Ultimately, it failed. It comes back into the day's range from earlier in the day, the earlier day range, I guess. And once it starts pushing up into here, I talked about how these areas here that haven't been touched in a long time, there's probably some stop losses from guys trading 15-minute charts, half-an-hour charts, hourly charts, whatever. They haven't been touched in a long time, and now the price is creeping up. And as the price creeps up, some of those guys are going to get out for, just kind of around break even. And as it gets there, it's going to trigger those stops. So we're talking about here, and then the day high up here, potentially getting triggered. And they do sometimes act like a magnet. It's not all the time, but it's just something to be aware of. So you can check out the recording of this day on the YouTube channel, and there's a link in the article as well, as I pointed out. So that was the day. Focus for next week is, again, last week I had started this just kind of doing... What's happened this week is I haven't done so much the 3 minutes kind of on each thing, or even like spending 10 minutes at one time. It's just like whenever I'm driving or whenever I think about it, I am just kind of driving home points that I really want to work on. So this week, I know I didn't trade super well. So just, kind of whenever I think of it, it's just like we trade the valid setups. I like trading valid setups because it gives me X, it gives me this. I don't want to take random trades because they make me feel like crap. Then I don't trade as good the next day, and it's like a snowball effect. So I'm just kind of reiterating why I want to do things the correct way and why I don't want to do them the wrong way. And that sounds kind of dumb, but it really just like drives home over and over and over again to basically follow your trading plan. And then you can do this with health. Like, I want to focus on my health. So just whenever I kind of remember, just remind myself that I have goals for my fitness, for my weight, and what I want to be putting in my body. So whenever I remember, I'm just reminding myself, like, I don't want junk food. I want to eat, really good stuff that's going to fuel me, that's going to make me feel good. So I'm just doing that throughout the week. Whenever I remember, maybe I'll do the 10-minute thing, but so far, kind of last week, that's how it ended up going, was just whenever I remembered taking, 10, 20, 30 seconds to just kind of pound home a few points that I really want to work on. So that's the week in review. Until next week, happy trading.